Sampson.
And I'm Bryan Northup.
And we're here to talk to you about our art in our show, Traces of Us.
Welcome to our exhibit. Fran, I love being here and experiencing our artworks, sharing walls and conversation in this space.
Yeah, during installation we had several different moments. Seeing our works react in Shake's gallery was exciting. Curating and combining pieces was a blast. It really felt like pure creativity.
We created a new work, Traces of Us. So Fran, this is our second show together. This is Traces of Us, and we've done a show, Some of Us, 5 years ago. So what were we hoping to accomplish showing our works together again? What do you think?
Well, I think first of all, we just wanted to create a coherent show that works as a work of art in a way in itself, that brings things out and of each other's work. And I really think that happened. I'm looking at these two pieces. It's like I had never seen that piece of yours before, and then once we got it out of we're painting this, we just knew, these pieces have to go together, so it's like the pieces dictated where they went to us, and it kind of reminded me of making art, just period, because I put down a shape or something, and then I end up deciding the next shape and the next shape, and that's how the process works, and that's really kind of how we hang this. We hung this show. And did you discover different ways to hang your work, Bryan?
I absolutely did. Yeah, I had an epiphany moment, actually. While walking one day, thinking about the show and thinking about your horizon line pieces and your beachscapes, made me think I could create something similar, putting two of my works together and creating a horizon line. So that was a new departure for me and very exciting kind of direction to discover. We made new work within the show that we hadn't originally intended to bring and put up on the walls, which I think is the most exciting result we could hope for while out hanging an exhibit. Both of us are motivated by color when we're working, and I like seeing the yellows and blacks and some of the other color combinations syncing up here in the exhibition. We're also, of course, working in abstract mode, so having those formal compositions and leaving room for the viewer to bring their own interpretations is really important to us. But what else can we highlight about our work for the viewer?
Well, in addition to similar aesthetics, I believe in different ways, both of our works point to the interdependence of life. Speaking from my own work, especially in my origin series, I'm considering how all people go back to the beginning of time, to the Big Bang. I see both the positive and the negative in humans. We're so clever, we really are. It's amazing. I can't help but love people. What a burden it is to be aware of your own consciousness, aware of your own mortality, and still get up and do something interesting.
Yeah.
Knowing it's all finite. So yeah, my hat's off to people. And yet, we're also aware of the destructive nature of people, and both of us deal with that. In that sense, I think our work is very connected. We both deal with the beauty that comes from humans, the fact that we create things And we also deal with the other side, the destruction. You, by using this plastic element, even though you're reinventing it in a magical way, and yet it's being reinvented in the creative side, which is the best of being human. And so in my own way, I'm trying to create interesting abstract compositions. I work for that. I work toward creating interesting abstract pieces of art that speaks to what I think is one of the greatest things humans do, create. Mm-hmm. When we are being truly at our best, when we are creating. But I'm also referencing some of my pieces, the other side, the fact that people are excluded, that there are cracks that marginalized people can fall through, like in Fracture, and only some people get to make that decision.
Right.
Why, for example, do some groups of people have to wait to see who's in office to find out whether or not their rights are still going to be honored? And so I think we're both conscious of both sides of humanity.
So a core theme that both of us come back to is interconnectedness, I think, and just how there really is no other. There is not an away. There is no throwing things away. There is no throwing people away. It's really all connected.
And you're certainly showing us that. You're not throwing away that use plastic.
No, even if you think you are, somehow it's getting back into your body. It's there in your cells and you're eating it. Likewise with some of your works that are focusing on such an immense scope of showing the origin of the universe, or at the atomic level, all these elements that are in each of us, that have distilled down to each person, highlighting that in the face of politicians who try to say this person is illegal or this person is other, I think is so important. And I know that this is the premise you were going on when Trump was in office.
Yes, I started the Origin series when Trump was in office, and the rhetoric of hatred was really being amped up, and exclusion and cruelty seemed to become more and more acceptable. And it's so petty and so demeaning, and I actually needed to back away. I guess I backed away very far, because I kind of backed all the way into a mindscape as opposed to landscape, and it feels like outer space, and yet it's red. I didn't want it to be like a science fiction movie. I wanted it to have the feeling of this big explosion. Mm-hmm. We're all from the Big Bang, and we've come so far in so many ways. It's amazing that mere particles of stardust formed over time to create human beings aware of their own existence. So wake up, people, to the joy, the gift you have in being alive, instead of wasting this one life on petty grievances and hatred and destruction.
Fran, we have shown together before, and some of us in 2018 at the Oak Park Public Library, and that was a great success, so we wanted to do that again. And so here we are in 2023 with Traces of Us, and we are going to interview each other and just ask each other some questions, and so people can learn more about our artwork. So I have a question for you. You often use a horizon line in your work, suggesting a landscape, yet these are not what one usually associates with landscape paintings. Can you speak to that?
You know, I do think of my paintings as landscapes, and I often just start with a horizon line. That's kind of almost the starting point. I'm creating this world. Uh-huh. But rather than capture, a photographic representation of someplace, I'm trying to capture the feeling of a place or an event or even an idea. These are all invented spaces, and they're the product of my human gaze. Whenever us humans are seeing anything, we're always interpreting, we're always abstracting it.
Right.
We are creating the abstraction. And it is through that filter, this is what I'm presenting, an abstract painting. That is my reaction to that space or idea.
Yeah, you really have created an immersive field to find yourself in. I love that. Can you talk a bit about your process creating your work?
I work intuitively, and I start with a layered background. I add colors and shapes as I go, and each color and shape pretty much suggests to me what will come next, what's needed to keep the movement of the composition going. And this is true whether or not I'm working with a horizon or not. For example, in this cycles series, the circle fragments that are formed from the arcs, they seem to bounce and move and direct your gaze across and into the layers of paint. Some are bold and others are faint, and they're barely visible from the layered background. Whatever works to keep the movement going for the piece. And I combine symbols to layer meaning also, so not just to create the aesthetic layers and movement through the piece.
Mm-hmm.
So in several of my circle pieces, for example, circles are metaphors anyway for the cycle of life. And in some of these, I layer references to the cyclic nature of human rights being given and taken away from marginalized people by the dominant power group. And this is especially true in fracture.
Yes, I see that for sure. In both your cycle series and your beachscapes, brightly colored shapes float on and into neutral toned layered background. But in your origin series, the shapes, large and small, some collaged, move in an intense sea of red hues. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, in this series, this is really what I meant by I'm trying to depict sometimes not an actual place, but an idea or a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I think I'm going with both of those things. And I'm referencing life from the very beginning on a quantum level. So the red, that intensity of an explosion
Yes.
of particles that we all come from. And the fact that out of that blast, life evolved from just stardust to beings capable of being aware of their own existence. That's amazing. And people have such a dilemma. We have to face the fact that we have all this intelligence, and what does this add up to? We just die, right?
Yeah.
And then all of that's a lot to cope with. I mean, ignorance is bliss, and humans face all the time their own mortality. So they don't get that option. And so I have this real admiration for the dilemma humans find, and this kind of speaks to that. I'm admiring that we could come so far. And yet I'm also speaking to the fact that in this series and in my other series, that we can evolve with such majesty and create things, but we can also make such a mess of things.
Yes.
We can literally blow up our planet. We can destroy our atmosphere. We can destroy the very home we live on.
Yeah.
And we can be petty and spiteful to our fellow humans. And the truth is, we all came from the same origin. There are no old families, and there are no new families. Every person's ancestors go back to the same beginning. We all belong. We all evolved here.
Yes. And I love that you've chosen red as an sort of cosmic color instead of black. It's just this visceral life-giving color. I mean, we are all red on the inside, right?
Yes, we are. So Bryan, I want to talk to you a little bit about the material you use.
Yes.
You work with a common material that, well, no matter what, we use it every day. It's in everything, okay?
Yeah.
But we don't usually think of it as an art medium.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea to start making art out of single-use plastic?
Yeah, so I started working with single-use plastic in 2015. It's been about 8 years now, and so witnessing at that time disposable plastic was a relatively invisible problem compared to how it is seen today. In the 8 years since I started this practice, the plastic problem has gained much more awareness, but simultaneously the scope of the problem continues to expand and impact the planet due to lack of course correction. Actions have come but too slowly. Plastic is still everywhere. So I believe it has a place in contemporary art world as a painted surface hanging on gallery walls. I want to get plastic in front of people in an unexpected way to create that aha moment in the context of fine art.
We certainly do. Plastic production is one of the many causes of damage to the planet. What do you hope people, viewers, learn from your practice and your artwork?
You know, like I said, we don't really see plastic anymore, even though we use it every day. We're dependent on it. So I'm trying to reimagine it or present it for others to reimagine. Material and its manipulation is scrutinized much more closely as an art medium and taken in with a renewed agency as art, much more so than as a food wrapper or grocery bag that we are trained to recycle. I find it fascinating to think that plastic came from fossil fuels that in turn came from ancient living organisms. I hope to help people see plastic in a new way and think of other ways to innovate with this material, since it is here for a very long time.
Climate change, climate crisis, and all of its human causes, we are just now acknowledging. And it's just now come into focus since your practice with plastic began in 2015. What role do you see artists playing in environmental activism?
I think artists help all of us see our world, our problems, our beliefs in a new way, and nudge all of us towards adjusting values, assimilating diverse viewpoints, and taking action. Artists present problems we typically don't want to consider in ways we can access and understand. Artists innovate and inspire and ask that the viewer does the same. Thank you for coming out, taking the time to experience our exhibit Traces of Us, and a special thanks to everyone at Epiphany Center for the Arts for having us at the Chase Gallery in 2023. Until next time.